Okay. So, usually when I do something like this, I have a script, but, well, fuck it. I don't feel like writing it, and so I'm just gonna go because I've had this idea in my head forever. It won't leave me alone, so I'm just gonna do this. So, Pokemon, specifically the anime. Basically, if I was allowed to hit the reset button, right, and start over again with Ash, what would I change? First off, he's going to catch more Pokemon because, let's be real, most of us do not have a solid team of six when we play for the first time. Most of us have a rotating team, because most of us just catch whatever looks cool. Let's be real, the vast majority of us do not have a plan going in. We just catch whatever looks cool. And sometimes they stick, sometimes, and the final team is whatever stuck. Right? I can't be the only one who does that the first time they play through. Now, after that, you might have a plan, but let's be real, this is the anime. Ash isn't going to go for a region twice, so bleh. So the idea is that every series will be a region, would be a region. So Kanto would be a series, Johto would be a series, so on and so forth. And each series would have 3 to 4 seasons within it, each focusing on an arc. So like season 1 is the introduction, season 2 is Team Rocket, season 3 is Mewtwo, season 4 is the League. Orange Islands would be its own little mini series because and it would basically have two arcs, and it would only really have two arcs: the Orange League and the Legendary Bird stuff. And yes, Ash would catch legendaries, though I've kind of got a rule for that where they have to be legendaries that can have where there could be multiple of them. So, for example, Suicune. That's fair. Groudon, no. Regigigas, no. But Suicune, the Legendary Beast, the Legendary Birds, Zekrom, the Eon Duo, those sorts, they're fine. And Mythicals are all fine too. I have made two exceptions to that rule: Mewtwo and Giratina. Mewtwo because he's a clone in special case, right? And also because there's confirmed to be at least two of them. And Giratina because I don't think Giratina need to be free to perform her duties. I don't even know what Giratina's duty is other than just sitting in the distortion world and doing nothing. I don't think Ash catching her hurts anything in the cosmic order. But like Ash isn't going to have Palkia or Dialga, right? And that's sort of what I'm going with. And then for Johto, you would have the Celebi arc, Lake of Rage, the Whirl Islands, and then the Johto League. Each one would sort of end with its league, is sort of my idea. And then you would have other stuff going on in there. Like the gyms would just be sprinkled in throughout all this. And then Hoenn would, of course, have. Then you'd have Hoenn with Team Aqua, Team Magma, and Jirachi and all this other stuff. Sinnoh would have all Darkrai and Cresselia, all that. Ash wouldn't catch a Darkrai, I just don't think it fits him. Um, but for example, like Ash would catch the Mudkip, not Brock. But in exchange, Brock gets one of the fossils, Cradilly. Brock gets a Cradilly because, why not? Changes like that would, of course, be a thing. Ash would catch a Hippowdon, an Abomasnow, a Flygon, an Absol. He would catch Lucario, Gengar, and Dragonite a lot earlier. Tyranitar. He would catch Latios and Latios. He would catch Ho-Oh eventually. He would catch Ho-Oh toward the end of Johto. Is kind of my idea. And then I would age Max up. So Max and May are twins in this version, and they'd be starting at the same time. So Max can actually catch Pokemon and take the gym challenge, giving it sort of also every region takes a year of Ash is a year of Ash's life. That's sort of what I'm going with. So we'll say that the league takes place like right before Ash's birthday. So basically, every time he returns home, he's returning home on his birthday, pretty much, or around, depending on how long it takes him to get back. But that's sort of the idea. So he starts out at 10. By the time he hits Johto, he'll be 11. When he hits Hoenn, he'll be 12, 13, 14, so on and so forth. At least that's my idea for time in Pokemon, anyway. So by the time he gets to Galar, he starts out at 10. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. He's an adult when he gets to Galar, essentially. And then when you go to Paldea, he'd be 19. So it's not too fast. Because if you actually do the math on the anime, he ages way too quickly, and that's why they had to slow it like the fuck down. But I feel like a year if every region's a year, that's a completely fair time because it kind of keeps him going. It feels like he's moving forward, but it doesn't feel like we're just rushing through. Because if you actually do the math, he should be in his 20s by anime standards anyway. But that's not the point. The point is, like, really, I feel like the problem was always that Ash took way too long. To be honest, at latest, Ash probably should have stopped at Sinnoh. And even then, like, my headcanon is every region takes a year. And you're only seeing the most interesting bits. So, like, you're skipping, like, days of travel between episodes. Days of uninteresting travel and training between episodes. Like, the gyms would not be their own arc. The gyms would be just sprinkled in. But I feel like if there's a more... I feel like the biggest problem with the anime is that there's a more focused arc every season. And a thing that Ash is trying to accomplish in every season, not just the league necessarily. Like, for example, Ash taking an interest in contests in Sinnoh. Or Ash's main priority in Hoenn being more about the battle frontier. In Unova, he's... The whole arc is Zekrom and what's going on there. And of course, N. Also, characters from the games will show up. So, all of the like main protagonists from the games will show up in some form. Like, Ethan would be basically... So, I kind of filled in the Kanto group in my head. Because those other two trainers just don't exist. So, I filled it in. Leaf would get the Bulbasaur, and Richie get that Charmander. So I'm just introducing Richie earlier, because that makes sense to me. And Richie would be basically a friendly rival, and Leaf, it would be sort of explained that Ash kind of had a crush on her. But he moves on from that eventually. But the idea that she's there and is there to show that Ash isn't just has no libido whatsoever, because that's a weird thing anime main characters seem to do that I don't quite understand how they're all so fucking dense. And don't get me wrong, Ash is still going to be dense, and outside of Pokemon battles, he's a bit dumb. But when it comes to... I think of Ash like I think of Goku. Outside of battle, he's not particularly smart, but when he's in a Pokemon battle, he's a genius, essentially. is sort of the thing. I also like the idea of Brock catching the Aerodactyl, so that would be a thing. Misty would be around. Also, companions will come and go, but they come back every once in a while for arcs here and there. So like Misty can come back and do the Togepi Kingdom thing. And whenever they come back, they will have new Pokemon because it's not like they just stop. Because they don't just stop existing because Ash isn't around. So Misty would still be doing her thing. She's just not with Ash anymore. So, for example, Misty would catch a Milotic because I think that's cool. Brock would still catch like Krogunk and all that as well. But like, I think Mac. But like, for example, Brendan would be Maze. Brendan and Wally would be around. Brock would leave at the end of Johto because I feel like after Johto, he really didn't have much point. But at Besley and Sinnoh, he felt like a third wheel. He felt like he could have been gotten rid of and been fine. So instead of that, we're going to have Wally traveling with Ash and May. Brendan would be sort of a rival character to Ash because, though he'd be a much friendlier rival, because I don't want to necessarily have just all assholes in every region. There'd be an asshole in every region. Because Gary would still kind of be around. He would show up in Hoenn a couple times. But at this point, Gary's a friendly rival. I just kind of want Hoenn to be a bit more about. I want it to, at a certain point, the rivals are kind of secondary to everything else going on. Like, Paul will be there because Paul was too good to get rid of. Trip will be around, but he's not just Paul Mark II. And he's not really a rival to Ash. He's a rival to someone else. He's a rival to Hilbert, who would be one of the main characters for Unova. Nate would be part of the International Police and doing that. Rosa would be around. She'd just be a character. She'd just be one of the other trainers that Ash encounters a few times throughout. And basically, I'm imagining like massive fucking battles towards the end. Like Zekrom versus Reshiram would happen because, yeah. But like Ash would catch the legendary bird, the legendary beast. He'd have Suicune and Ho-Oh at that point. Like, let's be real. By Unova, the gyms are a fucking cakewalk for him. He's done it a million times. He knows what he's doing. And by the time we get to Paldea, Ash is essentially a guest lecturer at the school, and he's essentially mentoring people. And I would have Liko and Roy show up at that point, and sort of Ash is mentoring them and doing that. So, and then Liko and Roy take over for Gen 10, whatever Gen 10 would be. If that makes sense. But like, you'd also get mini series outside of that. Like, I would have Ash's father essentially be red, though I'd come up with a better name for him. And Gary's father would be essentially blue. But essentially, they are. And you would get like an Origins anime for those two that would be canon. And then you would get like. For other characters. Like, I would do one for Lance. One for. I don't know. Steven and Wallace. Cynthia. And kind of tell their backstories, because I think a lot of those characters could have really cool and interesting backstories if you put the effort into it. I don't know. That's just me, though. Also, Ash would have a Gallade because I think Gallade fits him. Also, I'm not against characters sharing Pokemon. So, for example, Ash and Max would both have Gallade. Though Max's would not evolve, though they would not evolve into Gallade till after Hoenn. They would evolve at the start of Gallade would be one of the basically Ash would not leave all of his Pokemon behind. That would not be a thing for this. Because it's an Ash who actually wants to get stronger. Also, Ash would have a lot of Mega Evolutions. Also, I'm not against Ash having other electric types as long as they serve a purpose. Like, he'll have Zekrom, he'd have Zapdos, Raikou. He'd have. Well, let's be real. By the time he get. So that's at least 3 other electric types he'd have. I also. I basically stole a Max team from another fan fiction, but that's not the point. He would have a couple other Pokemon that aren't on that team, but basically Max's team is just all the Pokemon that he basically said he'd come back for. He also gets Jirachi because Jirachi cool. I'd find a way to make that work. I don't care what it would take. But like Brock would show up still, Brock would still catch more Pokemon. You just wouldn't see him all the time. And eventually Ash and Serena, yeah, those two would just end up sticking together after Kalos, I think. Because he would go to Alola, do that whole thing. He'd go to Galar, do the things there. World Championship still happened because duh. That'd be its own arc. And then he wins that. He sort of. And then Paldea is more about Ash figuring out, okay, what do I do now? Right? That's my idea for Paldea. That's why I want him in Paldea. Because it's about him figuring out what does he do now and mentoring these 2 new characters, Liko and Roy, while at the same time looking for the professors. Because the deal is that, and he was initially sent there by, it could be Oak, it could be Kukui, doesn't matter. Because they haven't heard from Toro and Sada, who would be husband and wife in this version. Just, I'm combining the versions, okay? But they haven't been heard from. Basically, there's sort of, I'd established this early on where all the professors kind of know each other and they talk, right? They exchange information because science. So, I'd also, it's pretty much canon that Oak was a champion. I'd probably expand on that somewhat and show off his team. And in my mind, he has a Dragonite, an Arcanine, a Charizard for sure. I don't know what else though. And he could have literally any Pokemon. It doesn't matter. As long as it isn't a legendary. I don't want Oak to have a legendary. But like, that's sort of my thing. You know? Like, I would like Ash to have an Ursa ring. I think that would be cool for him. A Hitmontop, I think, would be cool. I'd like him to have an Espeon because Espeon, again, to match Red. He would still have a Lapras because he basically caught all of Red's other, like, Pokemon that he used in that battle, right? Because he caught Snorlax, he got a Lapras, he had all 3 starters. And by the way, all of his Pokemon would fully evolve. Not necessarily in the series he catches them. Some of them would take longer than others. Like, for example, there are 2 Battle Frontiers. Some of his old Pokemon, he would use mostly, he wouldn't really catch new Pokemon for the Battle Frontier. So a lot of his old Pokemon will get attention there and evolve there. But like when he takes on the Battle Tree, when he takes on the World Tournament the first time, because he would do it in Unova and lose, and then he would do it again after Galar, and that's when he'd win it, right? Which sets up why Ash continues on with the Gym Challenge after Unova. Because he realizes, okay, I still need to get stronger if I want to hang with the best of best. By the way, after Sinnoh, because I'm removing Tobias, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy and his legendary spam. That's bullshit. And yes, I know I'm giving Ash legendaries, but it's different. He's not going to fucking spam them to win. they'll be around. Like, he'll use Lugia for stuff, and there'll be occasions where you see like Lugia and Ho-Oh and stuff like that, but they aren't. It's more coincident that he catches them. And as someone would put, Ash is like a Pokemon catcher and more a Pokemon adopter. Because most Pokemon he catches are Pokemon who wanted to come, who wanted to, already wanted to come with him. And the Pokeball was more a formality. So yeah, that's a thing. Oh, and the idea being sort of Ash as a mentor figure at the end, and then he's done after Paldea. That's my thing. Like his end point is Paldea. He's there for Paldea, but he sort of takes a back seat, and then Liko and Roy take over going into Gen 10. That would be my idea anyway. And then we can move on. And a lot of the original characters would stick. Alon would still be there. You know, Go would still Glow and Chloe would still show up. All that stuff. I'm just adding more stuff to it and making it more story driven, less episodic, basically, is what I would want to do. Also, if Ash has a Pokemon who can Mega Evolve, they will Mega Evolve. At some point, it'll happen. So, that's it. I've been rambling on now for 22 minutes. I'm done. I'm probably going to record another video after this because I have something else I want to do too. But that requires me to get my phone and pull it up. So, that'll be next. Ta ta.